Definitely one of my favorite parts of the week as we visit with Cooper Mays, the Vol Report, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. And we've got a lot of good things to talk about. Tennessee with a 66-24 win over Missouri. Please hit that like button. It helps spread the word on the channel. That thumbs up button, hammer it. We appreciate that. Subscribe and share. Cooper, you got to feel pretty good after that win. You guys took care of business when I know there were a lot of doubters after the Georgia game.
Yeah, I think all of us were kind of just sick and tired of hearing about how if we were going to bounce back or how monumental of a loss it was. I think everybody was kind of excited to get back out there and prove that we were still who we thought we were and everything. So it was good.
Yeah, I've talked to somebody within the program last week, and I got that feeling too that you guys had a bit of pent up frustration or anger, whatever the word you want to use. What was the week like heading up to the Missouri game?
I think it was just an opportunity for us. I think we looked at it as an opportunity to kind of bounce back, and I think everybody kind of had a sour taste in their mouth about the game, obviously. But then, when you have a bunch of people, talking about you on, every platform and stuff, talking about how you're, asking or wondering if you're going to bounce back, I think any competitor is naturally going to try to, rise to the occasion that week and that next game for sure.
How quickly last week did you get the notion this team had the right mindset?
First day that we got back in pads. Um, Obviously, on your first days where you're not in pads, you're not going to feel it. I mean, you're just running around and getting loose and stuff. But when you get back into hitting people and stuff and getting back to normal practice, I think we had that vibe that we still were Tennessee and that we had something to prove.
So would that have been Tuesday or when do you guys go in pads now?
Tuesday.
Okay, so Tuesday you're back in pads and you sense that this team has that sort of feel. How refreshing was that? Because I know you had the feel, but how refreshing was it to know that you guys were still driven to attain your goals?
It was just good to feel the energy back. Everybody's gonna feel probably a little bit down and downtrodden a little bit when stuff doesn't go your way and you take your first loss of the season like that this deep. So just kind of getting our juice back a little bit and just reminding ourselves of who we were. It was really just a good thing to see out of our group. It was a big pivotal moment, if we were going to bounce back or not. So, I think it speaks to who we are as a team.
I've said that no matter if you guys win the national title or not, that this is a very, very, very special class in terms of what you guys have been able to do. And I'm talking about the seniors that are going out. So obviously you're not a senior, but um, what were the emotions like, Cooper, before the game?
That's a good question. I don't know if I could put, one word on it, but I was just really, thankful for the bonds and stuff that I made with all the guys that were, going out, especially Jerome and Darnell having their senior nights the other night or yesterday night. It was just really special to kind of see how much they have grown and kind of flourished as humans, and I thought it was just a really special night for us all around.
Tell me about Jerome Carvin and your impressions of his career because this just in, he started a ton of games at different positions for Tennessee, and probably been one of those guys because we talk about Darnell Wright and I talk about you a lot on my show, and we talk about the other left tackle position. But Jerome Carvin is the type of guy that you can build a program around.
He's going to do everything right. He's a lot like when I talk about Hendon, just the same person every day. You know what you're going to get out of Jerome every day. If it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday or Friday, it doesn't really matter. You're going to get the same Jerome Carvin, and he's been one of our most consistent and consistently good players throughout his whole career, and just a really great human being all around.
As far as when you start to look forward, everybody wants to talk about the college football playoff. Do you continue um to kind of try to filter that out as best you can, or do you pay attention to it at all?
I'm just focused on the next game, especially at this point. We don't. It's not in our control at this point, really. So now more than ever, you just got to look forward to, doing your job that next Saturday and doing it at the highest level you can to give ourselves the best shot at being in it. But other than that, right now, I'm just focused on the next game, like always, and it's always been that.
We'll get to that next game. Let's look back at the big win against Missouri. At what point did you feel like during the game that you guys had a pretty good grasp of what was going to happen? Early, second quarter, third quarter. When did you feel like, hey, we got this?
Probably third quarter. Third quarter, we I think had a swing of in like 10 minutes of game clock. Obviously, it wasn't 10 minutes like real time, but 10 minutes of game clock. We took the score from like up maybe 3 or 4 to up like 21 or something like that. I don't know exactly what the score was, but we had a really big swing in the middle of the third quarter that kind of sealed the game up for us a little bit, I think.
No, definitely. That's what it felt like. And at that point, does it allow you to, as you had before, and many times this season, play a little bit more free and just how when you feel like you have control of the game, how does it change your mindset?
I don't think it changes really any of the maybe other positions. I don't really know, but the O line, I don't think there's any doubt that you got to be the same level of aggression and tenacity or whatever adjectives you want to put in that slot. But you got to be the same type of player every drive of the game. It doesn't matter if it's late or in the beginning of the game. You always got to set the tone.
When you look back, how did the offensive line play? How do you think that you guys played against Missouri as a whole?
I think it went pretty well. I mean, obviously nothing's ever going to be perfect, right? But you can't really complain with 60 something points and 700 something yards of offense. So a lot of stuff we can clean up as always, but can't really be upset about the results, I guess.
No, certainly can. And then there were a couple of times where you had some penalties, and you guys have been pretty penalty free to this point. Is that something you address quickly, and your thoughts on those?
For sure, not what you want. Definitely not what you want. But Coach Hype always talks about penalties, and he talks about playing penalties and stuff. And those he talks about those are going to happen, but you can't have the post snap and pre snap penalties. Those are the ones that kill you and kill big drives. But gotta be better on our technique and don't put ourselves in positions that we have to hold. I think that's the big thing. But yeah, stuff happens. It's they're on scholarship too. You know what I'm
That
saying?
is true. I was gonna use that line if you didn't use it. They are on scholarship too.
Yeah, they're on scholarship too. They're always the answer.
No, but you're right. I mean, and that coming into the game was pretty good defense. I think they were 13th ranked in the nation.
No
So
doubt.
it's not as if that was chopped meat you guys were facing on
Oh,
Saturday.
definitely not. They've improved a lot from last year. I think somebody said that they were like the 13th ranked defense in the country or something like that. I don't really get into all the numbers and stuff, but you turn the film on and there's some studs on that defense, especially around on the front. Um, big individuals. Got a lot of length on them. It's just it's a matchup problem. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to corral rushers that have good pass moves and they got the size and strength to go with it that they can press the pocket even if their move doesn't work. So they've got a good defensive front. They were playing really hard and sending a lot of pressure. It was creating problems for us up front a little bit. But yeah, they've got a good defense, that's for sure.
Where do they rank among the better fronts that you faced this year?
Their game plan was pretty good. I'm not sure as far as ranking like the players themselves as far as talent, but they had a solid game plan for us, and they executed it well, but it just wasn't, you know, probably
Eh,
wasn't enough, I guess, at the end of it.
You mentioned third quarter. Is there a point, and it may have been that you may have been referring to the same thing, that be it the score or whatever, that you kind of feel like, hey, that they're pretty good, but it's you have the ability as an offensive line to impose your will on the other side, because the scoreboard, once it gets out of whack, it's probably kind of tough for them to continue.
A big thing was that drive where we had 2 plays and it was like 70 yards. I don't know where it was. It was in the third quarter, but we scored fast. It was a Jalen Hyatt touchdown. That's what it was. But anytime you can go out there and score and score fast, and it really just, even if you're not having that great of a game, anytime you go out there and cover like 80 yards in 2 plays, you're always going to look at it and be excited, and it's going to give you, momentum and juice for the sideline. So that was probably a big tipping point in my mind.
Speaking of Jalen, I want to remind everybody that this is brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and share. City Heating and Air Conditioning, serving the Knoxville area, and they are fantastic. It's about integrity, so none of those $29 service calls that turn into $3,500 new units. City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Speaking of Jalen, he had 2 drops at one point, and then he just comes back and has another career game. By his standards, it's just an average game, but he's well over 100 yards, touchdown pass. What does that say about his mindset, that you don't want to drop a pass, you don't want to give up a block, but his mindset, that was, I thought, very, very strong.
Oh, it was definitely funny. I went over to him on the sideline and I was like, I told him good game or something at the end of the game, and he was like, nah, I had 2 drops. I had a bad game. And I looked at him, I was like, well, a bad game from you is, 7 for 150 plus with a touchdown or 2 or whatever. I can deal with that. We can, if that's a bad game for you, then we can work out the rest of the stuff. Just give me at least a bad game every time, because if you're giving me all that with a bad game, we'll be okay. We can survive this thing, I think.
But does that speak to the standards that he has and that you guys have as a program?
I think so. I think it's just, if your program's in the right spot and you got the right type of people in the program, the right type of players, competitors, I think everybody would probably judge themselves that harshly. It's really hard in football. People that don't play don't really understand it as much, but like, you could have a great game for like 65 out of 70 plays, and or probably even like 67 out of 70. If you just have 3 bad plays, like it can ruin your whole perspective of the whole game. Me getting that holding penalty, like, I felt like I played terrible the whole day based off of like 1 or 2 bad blocks. Like, it's just how, it's real competitors, I think, will judge themselves very harshly every time. I think that does speak to the type of players that we've got here for sure.
Okay, so you say that you felt like coming away from the game, you didn't play a great game because of 1 holding penalty, but I'm curious, how did you grade? Because I bet at the end of the day, you graded out really well.
I don't know yet. We'll see. I'll figure that out tomorrow, but we'll total it up. Hopefully, it's at least above 80.
But
We'll see.
I mean, you played well, though, despite the 1 holding penalty, right? I mean, the whole front did.
I'm sure for most people's standards, yeah, that's definitely what they would come away with. But we got a lot of stuff to get better at. We got a lot of stuff to work on for sure.
Fair enough. I can take that. So, again, you're not on Twitter all the time. You're not on social media. You don't sit and watch football. We've talked about that before. So you might not even be aware, but there was some criticism which I found incredibly misplaced. There was some criticism about scoring late, that maybe Josh Heupel was running up the score against Missouri. As a competitor, just in general, what's your take on that?
I don't really know. I don't, like you said, I don't really get into that stuff. But even me sitting here now, you asked me the question, I don't really know. I can understand. It wasn't like we were up astronomical amounts. Like, we were up like 30 something points, I think, if you total it out, or maybe just above 40, whatever. But I mean, I understand if we were up like 80-20, like not running up the score or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm probably not qualified. I just play center. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know how to judge that stuff. I used to not really have have that problem around here. We didn't really score crazy amounts of points and talk about running up the score. So this is kind of a new thing for me. We'll work at it, I guess.
Well, on the flip side, um, you going way back, you've probably been on the other side of those. Did you? I mean, isn't it your job to, as a team, to score as many points as you can, and the other, and on defense to stop the other team from scoring as many points as they can?
That's what it probably would boil down to in the synopsis of the game, but I don't know. We'll leave it up to the fans to decide.
Are you even aware of the comments by Missouri's head coach Eli Drinkwitz that occurred in July about the whole NCAA investigation? Is that even discussed during the week?
No, we don't focus on stuff like that. We focus on plays and scheme and blocking our men. That's all. That's all we worry about. The only way we would have seen it is if we saw it on our personal Twitters. They definitely would not show any of that stuff.
No. Well, I'll go ahead and say it. He goes on a nationally syndicated show, and before he's even introduced, he talks about that on the Jim Rome show. Pretty tasteless and incredibly not funny for somebody that was trying to be funny.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he said, but it probably wasn't very funny. I don't know.
It was not. I'll send it to you, and you can laugh at the fact that you're not laughing. Okay, South Carolina. I know your thoughts on that game last year, and coming up this week. I know that film study will carry on, but what do you know, if anything, about South Carolina, and what do you remember about that game last year?
I didn't play in it last year. I was injured. I was out because of my ankle, but they're a good defense that flies around. They got some big bodies up front, especially last year. They had a person named Kingsley and Agbar, and he played DN. He was a stud. That he's in the league now. I'm not sure right now, but we'll dive into it tomorrow. They've got a really good team this year, though. We've been seeing them on film a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball, but and after it, they've pulled out some big time wins this year for sure.
Hey, speaking of, we've had this conversation before where you said you didn't play a couple times last year because you were dealing with the ankle injury, and I mean, how nice is it on a personal level to be healthy in mid-November?
Extremely healthy, extremely happy. Really, I can't complain. I mean, if you a perfectly healthy person probably in November in the SEC that starts every game, but I've been feeling pretty good. Hopefully I can, finish out the season feeling that way, and everything will be good going into the off season, be productive.
It has to change the whole perspective from just, I mean, you are a person. People, I think, look at football players and sometimes think of them as just, hey, that's the dude out there playing with my favorite colors on. But it is more than that. So on a personal level, it has to be vindicating to come back and be healthy and be a big part of this team's success.
For sure. People don't really realize that, even though it probably shouldn't, a lot of our happiness derives off of if you play well or play. Obviously, if you play bad, you're probably not going to be very happy. But going into a game and not having extreme confidence in your body, holding up, it's not a good thing to go. A lot of the game is mental. A lot of people say that, but I think when they're saying that, a lot of that is confidence. Confidence that you know what you're doing, confidence that you know you can achieve it, and just confidence in yourself. And when you're hurt and playing hurt, it's really hard to have a lot of that confidence there, and it kind of just wears on you a lot during the season because you don't really get back healthy, if that makes sense. You get healthy enough, but you don't get back like truly healthy in the football season.
The Vol Report with Cooper Mays brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. VolsWorks.com. Go to them. They are fantastic. If you enjoyed this interview that we have weekly with Coop, then we want you to hit that thumbs up button, like the video, and then set your notifications on because we visit with Cooper each and every week and we love it. So be sure and subscribe and share as well. For Cooper Mays, I'm Dave Hooker. The Vol Report brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.